What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Gooner, and today is transfer deadline day, which over the past few years has left me feeling a little bit like a kid on the naughty list, waiting up late at night to see if Santa brings me anything and finding out he doesn't. This year, though, looks like we might have made the nice list. And I'm going to start off with breaking news, which is that we look to have signed Jorginho. So at last, a transfer which Chelsea don't look like they're going to gazump us on. And I know there are people out there who don't feel that this is necessarily the kind of signing that we wanted to bring in, but it's an 18-month contract, so it's not a particularly long contract. It's not expensive, and he has Premiership experience. He's played over 160 games for Chelsea, and he's not a bad penalty taker as well. So I'm personally really happy about it. I think it really has been important for us, particularly with the Man City game and Thomas Partey looking like he might have picked up an injury. It worries all of us that we don't have cover in that area. And I'm sure it worries Arteta and the backroom staff just as much. The idea of Thomas Partey, let's be honest, going 38 games this season without an injury doesn't seem likely. I know that we have Zinchenko and he can fit into that position, and maybe there's something else we can do in terms of bringing players in. But what we really needed covering was a defensive-minded midfielder, and it's clear that Sambi Lakonga isn't necessarily at the speed we need him to be or ready for what we need him for. So I'm personally really happy about the Jorginho transfer because I think it gives us a little bit more confidence that if anything did happen, that we have a player that can fit into one of those positions in defensive midfield where we are currently lacking. Which brings me on to Caicedo. Now, Caicedo was signed by Brighton 2 years ago, I think, for $4 million. He's currently one of the lowest paid players in the Premier League. I think he earns £5,000 a week. So Arsenal have been looking to bring him in. There've been obviously an impassioned plea from the player himself on his Instagram account, which I'm sure was written for him, but asking the fans to forgive him for wanting to leave. And Brighton have taken umbrage at this and decided that they're going to dig their heels in. And even though we have apparently made at least two offers, with one of them apparently at 70 million, Tony Bloom, professional poker player that he is, may just be bluffing. We saw the same thing happen when Ben White came. They dug their heels in. Set Cucurella to Chelsea. They said they weren't going to sell him. And Trossard. Now, what's typical of all of those is that there's been a bust up and they've been asked not to come to training, just as Caicedo was asked not to attend until after the transfer deadline. So this could be brinkmanship. Certainly, I think for a player with very little time left on his contract, a £70 million bid seems strange for them to turn down. The Jorginho business obviously has signalled Arsenal's intent that they can go and get a midfielder and don't necessarily need to spend that much money. And I would personally be happy if we didn't sign him for 70 million because I think it's a lot of pressure on the lad. Although he is Premier League ready, I'm not sure he's £70 million worth of Premier League ready. But I wouldn't necessarily say that that deal is completely off. I know that there's been a lot of speculation about if we spent that much money, what impact would that have on potential Declan Rice transfer. Now, I would love to see us sign Declan Rice. That's not going to happen in the January transfer window. He's not going to leave West Ham now, particularly with them in a relegation battle. And for West Ham, the prospect of losing a player that might keep them up would be financially disastrous, however much money they got from him, if it led to them going down. So I think with a view to a potential Declan Rice signing in summer, the Jorginho transfer makes a lot of sense and the Caicedo transfer makes a lot less sense. So I think I'm going to put my neck on the line here and say Caicedo isn't going to happen. But I don't think that Brighton necessarily wouldn't sell him. I think that we've reached our ceiling of what we're prepared to offer. So unless there's a climb down for Brighton, which I'm not sure would happen either, perhaps he'll go to Chelsea. That's what they seem to do at the moment. They seem to buy everyone they can. Sambi Lakonga. Obviously, the Man City game, and particularly a lot of people talking about Odegaard's uncharacteristic dressing down of the player on the pitch at the City game, kind of holding him responsible for not covering, which allowed Ake's goal. I just don't think any of us really have seen enough of Lakonga to be excited by him. And I think giving him a chance to go to Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace on loan and see what he can do there makes a lot of sense to all of us. as does the Marquinhos transfer or loan transfer to Norwich. I'd love to see more of Marquinhos. I just can't see how he's going to get in the team at the moment. And the Europa League is about the only place I could see that. I think he shows promise. I really liked the first game, as I'm sure we all did, where he scored. But I just don't see how he's going to get time. So this transfer window comes down to the wire for us. I think I've got business done earlier in the day, which is nice. It means I probably can just relax as we get to 11 p.m. tonight. I don't know of any other potential signings. There's a couple been mooted that I don't think are going to move in January that we're not necessarily looking for. But certainly what's been done so far with the transfer of Trossard, who, I watch a lot of Brighton games and he's always been the standout player for me. I've spoken to a lot of Brighton fans about it. I know he can drift from time to time, but he's not going to be a starting 11 player. And we can't really have Martinelli playing every minute of every Premier League game as he's done up until the signing of Trossard. So having someone who could come in and potentially slot in up front or on the left, fantastic. And Trossard, as a lot of people have said already, looks very much like an Arsenal player. Two-footed, cuts inside. Comparisons I've heard made, one to Sami Nasri. I know we don't like to say the name, but I think Trossard, we're all really excited about him. Certainly his debut against Man City was a really interesting glimpse into what he might bring the team. And finally, Kiwior, who I am not going to sit here and pretend that I know an awful lot about him. But again, speaking to fans, Polish fans, I know he plays in the national team. They say he's strong, that he is really one to watch, and it's an excellent piece of business. Certainly, look, I'm a massive fan of Holding for what he brings in terms of spirit, and I think he was voted the most popular player in the Arsenal dressing room. That's got to count for you. But the opening 45 minutes against Man City, where it was him versus Haaland, I don't think any of us were particularly confident. And there were a couple of moments where I thought he was going to be reckless, as he was before, and get himself sent off. So for me, having another player that can slot in there, if we need for any reason we can't play Gabriel or Saliba, who are certainly an outstanding partnership at the moment in the defence, fills me with confidence. So I'm looking forward to seeing some glimpses of Kiwior. But overall, this transfer window has been, I would say, a success. Maybe not the marquee signing. And I want to talk a little bit about Modric, because when the talk and speculation was we were signing him, obviously he's an exciting player on the ball. He gets the ball, he cuts inside. My only concern would be, I don't see him as an Arsenal type player. Now, I know it's all pointless discussing it now anyway because he's a Chelsea player, but an 8-year contract on the kind of money they've put him on, I'm going to again stick my neck out and say I think within a couple of years Modric is going to go on loan somewhere. I don't see it working out for him. Who knows how long Graham Potter's going to be at Chelsea? Who knows how long they can put up with having this kind of wage bill and all these players that aren't playing is going to affect the squad morale. But I don't really want to talk about Chelsea that much. I want to talk about Arsenal. There have been some murmurings. I've been looking at some of the websites. Some Arsenal fans are seriously talking about the fact that signing Jorginho is really taking the edge off the transfer window, and it's dampening their spirits. Don't let that happen. I'm old enough to remember 1989. It was 18 years that I had to wait to see my first title, and what a title win it was at Anfield on that Friday night. It's almost as long again since we won it. So I know that there are fans out there that were my age, the age I was in 89, who are allowing themselves to be excited. It's a long season. It's going to be a roller coaster. Back in 89, it looked like we were going to do it, and then it was all over. And, we had to achieve the impossible, go to Anfield and win 2-0. Might be looking at a similar season, but what a season it's been. You couldn't have asked for more. 19 games played, 50 points. And really, I've said this to a lot of people. This is the first time, even the Invincible team, this is the first time I can remember loving the Arsenal squad as much as I do, from front to back. I'm going to do a video tomorrow about the squad and go through player by player. But this is the time to get behind the team. This is, I think a big part of the success has been turning the Emirates into a fortress, and that's got to be down as much to the players. Everyone's saying it. We have an opportunity here, not only to watch brilliant football, which we're playing, but also to really get behind the team and play our part in making it the season to remember and the beginning of what could be a dynasty, an Arteta dynasty. I know I was, just like anyone else, I was dubious about Arteta when he came in because I felt like he was too young, no experience in man management. I wanted them to give him 5 years, but I felt perhaps it wasn't going to be enough. And certainly when he came in and fell out with Ozil, and obviously there was a clash with the German players and a cabal of players that just weren't responding to him or taking him seriously. And then Aubameyang, he's had a lot of fallouts with players, but who really misses Guendouzi? Who misses Mustafi? We have now got a team where I think front to back, they all play for each other. They all support each other. There's passion. There's a real atmosphere about the place. So whether you think Jorginho is an Arsenal player through and through, you might think he's another Willian. I would say just get behind this team right now, support them, and who knows? Maybe they'll shock us and throw in a late transfer for someone like Caicedo at the last minute to bolster even further what is looking like could be a Premier League winning team. I am coming out and saying I think we're going to win the Premier League this year because I've been an Arsenal fan for 41 years and many of those years I've been negative. Even in 89, in the run up to the games, I was like, this is not going to happen. It's time to change our outlook. It's time to support the team vocally and passionately and bring the title to the Emirates. All right, so I'll be back later on in case there's any further updates, and just one quick message to say thank you so much for watching this video. If you've watched all the way, click like and subscribe. It's a brand new channel and there's going to be content regularly. So lots of love.